On my way, on my way. They wanna judge me, I'll testify. Catch me on Insta, I'm verified. They want me.
Lijep pozdrav, ja sam Hrvoje Marjanović, a mi smo u još jednoj epizodi Indeks studija. S nama su danas digitalni nomadi s kojima ćemo popričati što su digitalni nomadi, zašto ste ovdje i slično. A s nama su danas Ana Marija Kohanska i Steve Cencerenski. Let's start from the beginning. To a lot of people, a digital nomad is a abstract term, and a lot of people don't know what it is exactly. So you can tell me something about it.
Yeah, there is a joke that it's a homeless with a laptop. So basically people that can work remotely with the use of technology and they travel at the same time when they work. I think this is like the most generic definition. And in this group, of course, we have like remote workers, but we also have freelancers and we have also business owners.
So what type of work do you do?
I mean, it could vary. Like for me, I do copywriting and I do video production, most like post-production. I don't shoot a lot these days, but that's my thing. But it could be basically anything that can be done from a laptop. As long as you can travel with the work, you can pretty much do it from anywhere. And so you have people doing like tech-related things, like developers that are working from anywhere. You have like what you're doing, which is like business consulting. There's a giant, like, huge amount of things that can be done digitally, as it turns out, that the pandemic made much more obvious that you didn't need to be in an office to do anymore. I would not advise anyone to just say one day I want to be a digital nomad and then just go the next day and do it, because it's a good way to fail.
So there's steps to do it.
Yeah,
what is the right way to do it?
Well, I mean, part of it is to have some savings. First of all, you don't want to just start with nothing, because you need a base of operations. You know, you need, like, I would say a 3 to 6 month cushion.
Yeah, at least.
And that way that gives you the ability to go wherever you want to go within that budget, and then not stress about it immensely, and, you know, cultivate some real work that pays a recurring income, or develop some way of getting an income, because just travel, it's a vacation if you don't have any work, basically.
Yeah, I think I would just add, because that creates lots of confusion for many people. So I have seen, like, for instance, some posts, people say, I want to become a nomad. Where do I find the work? So being a nomad is not a work, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. But how do you sustain that lifestyle? How do you earn money? It's a different conversation, right? So we need to be sure, like, that you have sustainable income, like, be it work or be it business or be it like your own clients, but you need to have consistent income, and only then you can start, like, actually traveling and then figuring out how do you work and travel at the same time.
How did you start?
So I actually, like, I think it was 2015 when I first heard about that. I was not a nomad by then. I just lived in Barcelona. I was an expat. I didn't really know how to start, because by then, like before COVID, you either had to be like IT, but technical person, like developer, software engineer, or maybe designer or copywriter. Only those people work remotely, or unless you had your own business and then you decided what to do. But even that was difficult by then, because clients were not still prepared for that, doing business even if you had your own business, right? So by then I just heard that this thing existed, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have that precise skills that people had. So for me, it actually started 2017. When I left Barcelona, I moved to Lisbon, and then I found like the work that was actually, I mean, it was not remote, but I asked them to make it remote, like from the beginning. And actually, I was the first person in the company that worked remotely by then. So they agreed, and then, I mean, as soon as you found like the income, then I just started to travel, because traveling was always something that I wanted to do more that I could do. Like, traveling just 1 month per year was never enough for me.
You mentioned the pandemic. So how did the pandemic influence your work?
It's actually what made me a digital nomad. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because before, so I was working in the travel industry. I was working for cruise lines, worked for Royal Caribbean as a digital content specialist, worked for MSC as a multimedia producer. So I was traveling with them, but I had no control over that. It was contract based. And then in between that, I was doing like adventure tourism content and videos. So I was traveling with that. But again, that was like very short. And I was doing music videos in locations very it was not sustainable, and I had no sense of like control or longevity with it. Pandemic got rid of all of my work. There's no photography work. There was no video work. It was just nothing. I'd come back from Mexico to shoot a video in New York. I got to New York on March 10th. March 25th was supposed to be the shoot. I paid for the studio. Everything in those 15 days shattered. And so I'm like, well, this is depressing. But at the time, I'm like, pandemic, that's not what's happening here. It's going to be like 2 weeks. We'll be back to normal. A month goes by, 2 months go by, 3 months go by. Pretty depressed, like the rest of the world. And I'm like, I need to find a way to make money. Because I'm living at on my sister's couch. I didn't have a house or an apartment. I was just crashing there to do this project. And so I was like, all right, how do I make money without talking to anybody, being in a room with just a laptop and what I like to do? I'm like, I like to write. I have the ability to write, and I know there's platforms where I could find work. So I went on to a platform called Upwork, and I'm like, that's going to be how I make money. I'm not going to try anything else. I'm only going to do that. And so after months and months of trying, I developed, a few people paid me, made $18 for the first project. I was like, someone paid me. I'm a writer now, I'm a professional writer. And so that snowballed, and that by the end of last year, I'm now a copywriter, and I've been copywriting all this year and doing content marketing, all kinds of marketing that's writing specific. Video work came back. But once I had that recurring revenue from writing, I was like, I can leave now. I don't have to actually be here anymore. I don't need to wait for video to come back. I have clients now that every month pay me to write stuff. And I'm like, I just made myself into a digital nomad, which is what I wanted to do. But that's why I mentioned the planning thing. Like, if you have that thought, it really does take that much effort to sort of, if you're going to start it from scratch like I did, it takes time. But it was the pandemic that shook me out of my old way of working and forced me into what I love now, which is writing and being able to travel and being purely location independent.
And for you?
Yeah, for me it was actually the other way around. So I still work as a contractor for some IT company that has pharma clients. So actually, when pandemic arrived, I started to have more and more work, more and more projects, because now everybody, like pharma clients, pharma, they would just visit doctors, right? Because doctors are their main clients. So they would visit them in person, but then pandemic came and nobody could go to the hospital anymore, but they still had to promote themselves, right? So they had to go digital from one day to another, literally like from night to the next day. So then they started to have like much more interest in all these products for digital transformation, which is what we are doing. So that was pretty crazy. It's still like very, very busy. It really changed a lot of things.
It's your third time here?
In Croatia, yeah. I mean, as a nomad, second time. And at all.
So how did you even choose Zagreb or Croatia?
Yeah, so actually, I heard, Croatia, like the scenery, I just wanted to know the country the first time, and that was it. So I came first time, I think it was Dubrovnik probably, and Split, if I remember well. Then the second time I came, I stayed longer because I was a nomad. That's the thing, that when you are a nomad, you don't have to leave after a week because your holidays didn't end, right? You don't have to go to the office, so you can stay as long as you want. I mean, there are these visa issues, but not for Europeans. So then you just can visit different cities, and that actually allowed me to visit like many cities in Croatia, different places last year in several weeks. So I just go when I feel like I'm interested to, or if there is some event, or I just want to know the country. And these Mediterranean countries in Europe, they are very beautiful. I love the coast. I like sailing. I like hiking. So I really enjoy being outdoor, and that's also a factor.
So what was it for you? Like, how did you pick Croatia?
Well, so the first time I came actually was back when I worked for Royal Caribbean. I came to Dubrovnik and Split, and weirdly that wasn't like the thing that drew me. I guess like I was required to because it was work, and it was beautiful because both are beautiful cities. But like when you work for a cruise line, all you do is go to like amazing stuff. So like that was great, I loved it. But then when I came back in 2019, I met somebody, this Croatian, came back to visit them, and saw Zagreb for the first time in 2019 in January, which is like the perfect time to be in Zagreb. Just January, magic. Advent over, just nothing. There was snow on the ground when I got here. I'm like, I was packed for a tropical trip. I had like nothing warm. I couldn't feel my fingers and toes, and I'm like, this is awful. This is genuinely terrible.
Zagreb in January, flip flops.
Yeah, it was great. And then I flew into this airport, obviously, and it was like flying back in time because it was gray skies. There was a dusting of snow. The route from the airport back to town is not like gorgeous either.
No.
So I'm like, this is not fun. This is bad. And then finally, like the person I was with, we went into town, like Gornigrad, like the church up there, and I'm like, okay, I love this. Like I love this. And so I was just there for 2 days. Went on the trip, came back, and I went back to work, and it stuck in my head. So fast forward months later, made a video. I quit my job, started a video company with my friend. We made a video in New York, and I'm like, let's do post-production in Zagreb. And he's like, what are you talking about? Why? I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's awesome. I don't know, but let's confirm. So for some reason, him and his fiance were like, all right, we'll go. So we got an apartment on Britanski Trg and stayed for the month, and that's basically what made me want to just stay really long-term in Croatia. Was that month, because it was beautiful. That particular October, it was like 20 degrees every day. Beautiful, tons of stuff to do. It was obviously pre-pandemic, so there was just people everywhere having a good time. Cafes were packed. It was just a magical sort of time, and that stuck with me and pretty much made the decision for me. So as soon as I knew I could travel again and had that income, I'm like, I'm coming back here. Yeah.
So you also stayed in Zagreb?
Before this time, I was here only a few days. So on my trip, when I was visiting like different cities, that was just a few days. That was September 2020, I think. So I didn't really get to know that well the city. But yeah, I had like positive impression. I mean, people are very nice. You just feel good here. It's just comfortable, it's livable, it's safe, which is, for me, safety is really important factor. Like, I don't want to be like bothered all the time and worried that someone is gonna steal my bag or maybe even in an aggressive way. I just don't feel like this is worthy, right? So I would really, I don't know, question all the countries where you have to worry about your safety.
Yeah, we're basically a safe country. Like we sometimes,
it's
like we're too critical about what's going on here, but like when you generally look,
I think it's like one of I can't.
Safest.
It's one of the safest. I think maybe not the safest. It's like top 3 safest. There's
yeah,
like
you don't have to worry about that,
Yeah.
and this is very comfortable. It's also easy to, you know, like find your way in the city. People speak English. It's livable. It's affordable, which is an important factor too.
Oh, that's another thing to go back to the previous question.
Cost of life, very important for nomads.
Yeah. The first time I came here, I was a meat eater. I ate a lot of meat, and now I eat almost no meat. It just made
there's burek for you.
Yeah, there's burek sasiram, but like not if you ask a Bosnian, because
No. Okay, when I said it, I felt the hate
You're-
from Bosnia.
Just and I posted, by the way, on Instagram like a picture of like a burek with cheese, and like people literally called me out, like in my direct messages. They're just like, that's not what that is.
Yeah.
Like Bosnia, it's meat and that's it. It's a pita with whatever.
Yeah.
But it's related to the not eating meat thing. Like there's options in Zagreb. There's options in Split to live like meat free. And obviously the seafood is still, I can't get rid of that because seafood's just too good here.
What about the difference between people in Split and Zagreb? Did you feel something?
There's distinct difference.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's a distinct difference. To me, because I worked for an Italian company for 2 years, so it's like the same difference between like people from Napoli or just the South in general and Northern Italy, that kind of vibe, and there's that kind of rivalry that exists. And there's a difference. I don't want to say anything bad about either. I like them both.
Yeah.
And
but how did you feel about it? How would you describe it?
I sunk into the Dalmatian lifestyle very quickly. Because when you're there, like when you're here and someone tells you about, it's the stereotypes, the kind of thing we talked about earlier. It's like, they don't do anything, and like they only work for like 3 months or 4 months out of the year, and then they just go do whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that is kind of bad, isn't it? Then I got down there, I'm like, I would do the same, you know. And then I understood fiaca, which I also was like, this is dumb. Why would you just not do anything in the middle of the day? And then it was like 38 degrees and Split. I'm like, I'm not doing anything in the middle of the day ever again.
Siesta time.
Yeah, yeah. And I felt that in my bones. So I get why people from Zagreb do their thing. I get why people from Split do their thing, but there's like such a distinct difference. I think now I could probably tell where what person's from at this point. It's crazy.
I wouldn't be able to tell the difference as I haven't been that long in any of the cities. So,
what would you recommend to future digital nomads that come to Zagreb?
Do you want to take
Croatia?
Since you have like a fresh impression, I've been here for a little bit. So,
yeah, to come to Croatia specifically.
Croatia, yeah.
Yeah. So to Croatia, I would, if someone is just starting, I wouldn't like make any big plans, just give it a try. For instance, just go to the city for a month and take your laptop with you, but don't maybe leave your home yet. Don't make any big decision. Just see, like, does it work for you? Do you really like it here? Do you find yourself? And I would definitely join like this nomad community. So events, you don't have like to reinvent the wheel yourself. The people will help you, people will give you advice, and probably they solved already the doubts that you may have, so that will also help. In fact, like going where other people are already means that your life as a nomad is gonna be easier. They already checked, there is infrastructure, internet is working, so that's why they are there.
What would you recommend for digital nomads that come to Zagreb specifically?
What would I recommend? First of all, just recommend to come. Don't even think about it. Just drop what you're doing. It's that good. It's that good of a place for nomads. It's still like I think a little bit of a hidden gem in that sense. It's digital infrastructure. It makes it so easy to just hit the ground and start working. There's a ton of co-working spaces. There's obviously we talked about the restaurants and the cafes, and there's just nightlife events going on all the time. There's huge like online groups that where you can ask the questions like she was saying. It's a city that's like fully equipped to be a nomad sort of hub. It's just a matter of like getting the word out more and, you know, getting more people to cycle through and not use it solely as like a transit point like it used to be. So yeah, my advice would be like, if you're thinking about it, just stop and just book it and let's go.
Like sitting around in coffee shops is a big thing in Croatia. So how did you find that and how do you like the coffee here? We talked about it before the recording, I want to go back to it.
So I thought people warned me about the cafe culture, and they're like, yeah, if you get a coffee, it's like 2 hours. I'm like, who does that? Who would, like, why? Are there not better things to do in life? And that was like, it came in, okay, that's what it's going to be like. And so early on, there wasn't really the ability to have a 2-hour coffee because, you know, you were on a terrace and it was cold outside of pandemic stuff. So I'm like, okay, that's not a thing. Everyone was a liar, obviously. When I got down to Split, things were open again. Someone invited me out for a coffee, and I was a person I'd never met. So I'm like, that was 2 hours. I'm like, all right, it's weird. But that's probably because I just met them. And then the next time, I knew that person already. And so like, hey, you want to grab a coffee? I'm like, yeah, okay, I grab a coffee. It's like lunchtime. It's 2 hours. I'm like, I don't like this. Like, I have stuff to do. And the third time, I'm like, all right, if this is 2 hours, I'm going to get it. And it was like 3 hours. And then we went out for another coffee on Friday. And that became the 2 hour coffee. And then it was like
Friday.
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah. It literally became, it was like a 1 p.m., 2 p.m. coffee. So we finished it at 4. And then it's like, should we have an Aperol? Should we have a Spritz? So we have Aperol Spritz. And then it's like, we should gin and tonic. Maybe one gin and tonic. I got home at like midnight. Like, I just went for 1 coffee at 2. I got back 10 hours later. So now if someone invites me for coffee, I look at my whole day calendar, my whole schedule.
You free it up.
Yeah,
if
I'm
I
just
can
like,
commit to that
like, yeah, and it's like real because like no one will let you leave in like 10 minutes either. Like, you can't just go and have a coffee. Like, people will be offended. My parents, when they came, we had a coffee with one of my friends, and we were catching the ferry, and we're like, hey, we get a quick coffee, just like 15 minutes before the ferry, and my buddy was just like, you can't have a coffee in 10 minutes. What are you talking about?
At least an hour.
Yeah. So I love it. I mean, now that I'm into it, it's an experience, and like it's a mentality thing that I enjoy, where it's like life isn't about purely being productive and purely getting things done for a company or for whatever sake. you need to enjoy some part of your day, and I think that part of like Croatian culture is really amazing.
What were the first words you learned here?
Words, you mean in Croatian?
Yeah, Croatian words.
Hvala, probably. I mean, like dobri den, but that's very similar to all the Slavic countries. So,
yeah, I feel like hvala, like dobar dan, večer, kuhana vina, rakija.
Rakija, I forgot that one.
Može piva, like important stuff. But also, like, since I speak Russian, there's a lot of crossover words that kind of just I randomly knew that were the same.
They sound familiar,
they're
basically the similar roots.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think the Vala is like the first probably one.
Any swear words?
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce them though. Like I just hear them all the time, and there's like some jebe something. Is it just jebe?
They say that. That's like in Polish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's always like a string of words.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So like I don't know,
descriptive.
I don't know where the swear word actually starts.
No. It's and it's very descriptive. It's like rich in description.
Oh yeah, no, it's like that. That's why I'm like, is that one word? It's like no. It was very.
You have to describe the whole process.
Yeah,
like
and it's like someone sent me a video of like a translated. I think it might have been a Serbian movie. No, it was a Croatian movie, and they sent me like a translation of the curse section of it. I'm like, that's incredible. It was like, it was graphic, it was violent, it was just like rich. It was rich.
Rich.
They take effort.
It was like poetry. It was poetry.
Yeah.
And so like I only know that one, and that's about it. Yeah, it's barely one.
No, nobody say that to me, but we use the same in Poland. Then
same one.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, it's not the worst thing you can say in Poland, but you can say
fuck is nothing to us. Like, we don't feel that.
And ide, idemo, like that's actually the first one I worked was ide. First one I learned. Ide.
Go.
Yeah.
Come on.
Ide.
Come on.
Ide.
Ide.
Do you know what purger means?
No, what is it?
Purger.
No.
Never heard it. Like it's a word to describe a person from Zagreb.
Is it really?
Purger.
Yeah, purger.
Oh, is there a restaurant called that here?
Yeah. You probably
seen a sign
heard it in Split, but didn't register it.
It definitely didn't register. Purger.
Okay, let's go to the next questions. Do you have any advice for people thinking about becoming digital nomads? Like, most importantly, what they need to know and what to look for when choosing this line of profession?
Advice, you said?
Yeah.
I think we touched a little bit on it before, but I would to like put it into a nutshell, I'd say like preparation is key, and my mindset is super key, because there's going to be a lot of, you're on your own, and so you have to be like really proactive with your routines, proactive with staying on top of your own productivity, and staying sort of positive, because you'll be your only sort of resource initially, and then you build that out when you go into the groups and things like that, and ask questions and get support. But like, you have to basically rethink how work is, kind of, because we're not trained naturally to be this type of independent. Yeah, like we're told that, but we're never really trained how to do that. It's like, you should be independent, you should think for yourself, but not a lot of people do that. So
I really think like people need to first, what they gonna do, like, do they have remote job or no? Or do they want to have their own business? If they want to actually have their own business, probably it would be best like to develop that a little bit and only then start traveling. Otherwise, you would be like venturing into two different new things, like on one side like developing business, and on the other side like traveling, completely changing the lifestyle. And that can be like too much for some people. So if you don't, you are not employed, or that's not I would say the goal, and you want to have your own clients, I would try to get some income first. And you of course should have like some savings, or if not, at least some alternative, what you're gonna do if that doesn't work, right? Because you have to make that sustainable. And we also need to understand with freedom comes also responsibility, right? So, and people like the freedom part, but responsibility not so much sometimes. So yeah, it's now on you to make sure that actually you have like an environment where you can work. It's you that have to motivate yourself. It's not gonna be your boss anymore. So you have to focus, you have to think how you organize your day and your week. And yes, it's not only, some people started that they wanted to travel that much, they would just start doing anything, like to be able to work online and travel. But I don't think then it will be sustainable, because we also have professional goals, right? We want to grow, we want to earn more money, be more satisfied with what we do. So I also think you have to be clear what you're gonna do, like professionally, like what's your actually plan on the long term. Because we want to keep that sustainable. And then the third part would be the social. You have to think like how well you actually deal with solitude, because you will be also alone lots of the time, despite they are like amazing communities. But sometimes I'm just alone in my room working on laptop the whole day. There is nobody. So you have to know, you have to learn to be alone, and you have to feel good with that.
What do you think Zagreb could do to be a better place for digital nomads in the future?
I mean, I better.
Even better.
I mean, I honestly think it's really good. I think there's weird stuff that like from the States, for example, like nobody smokes basically, and like you can't smoke inside anywhere.
Oh yeah, that's
like,
indeed probably the what I most hate, that people smoke inside. That's really a problem.
So it's that I don't know how that gets changed, because the whole region just loves. Just like smashing cigarettes.
It's like Mad Men.
Cigarettes,
but I mean, like that would make it more pleasant. I'll say that. But in terms of like things to actually do, I feel like Zagreb genuinely has a really good offer for digital nomads. I mean, the cost of living is great. The ease of being here is there. The one thing I would add is that more flights into Zagreb would be great.
People are aware about Croatia as a destination for nomads, but it's more split, I would say, actually. And maybe a little bit Dubrovnik, but also Dubrovnik very little. Because nomads don't really see that much as a long-term destination. But Zagreb is actually, I would say most of my nomads friends, they don't really know, or they never been as a nomads here. So there is still much more that has to be done in building that awareness, because that you have a good things to offer, that's fantastic, but people has to know that you have good things to offer. So you have to promote, and that has to be consistent work, like building community, doing events, but they have to be regular also, right? So people know that if they go there, like every Thursday or every Friday, they can find other people. And I think probably would help like some intermediation with accommodation. There are like some platforms probably that's starting, but it has to be much bigger and much more now. Like if someone arrives and it's a nomad, where they gonna stay, right? Because now they have only Airbnb or Booking. That's too expensive. You can stay 2 weeks, but you cannot stay like 3 months paying Airbnb. That you're not gonna do that, right?
There are a few that popped up, but there's like
that has to be something that people just arrive, they book like for 1 week, but then they know where they have to go. Someone has to at least intermediate them and to help. You can book here, or you can contact that person. So if they can stay longer and pay like reasonable cost for a flat, then it's easier for them to stay. Otherwise, everything is about sustainability, right? Because you can come for a month and even just pay a month on Airbnb, but you're not gonna stay. That's as a nomad, you can't like spend every month that much as a tourist.
Yeah, the promotion things is a really really great point. And with I think Croatia, you're right, Zagreb has definitely not made any.
Yeah, because
any
you, for instance, you know that Zagreb has all these fantastic, I would say, things for nomads, but other people doesn't know.
But that's literally, Zagreb wasn't a destination for nomads until probably last year, yes. Beginning of this year, end of last year.
You're hiding it.
Yeah, but genuinely, like it was like Belgrade was a destination for nomads. True. Ljubljana had some nomad action, but Split obviously in the region was huge. Zagreb was non-existent on the list, and it wasn't until obviously the visa came in, and then the really, really concerted and concentrated effort by like Total Croatian News and Paul and what Tanya's doing, what Jan's doing, and it's all the private sector that's like pushing out stories, pushing out like, hey, we're building something here, because I mean, you're not getting much from the government. No government's really going to promote that much. Like, we did it. Go do something with it now. And so the private sector here is, I think, taken a really awesome approach and just magnified it. And so you are now, if you go look up like best place to be a digital nomad, you will see Zagreb pop up on the list
I
now.
would maybe also add like connection to local, I would say startup community or locals, because people also like nomads don't want to, I mean, at least a part of them, and I think that's growing. They don't want to live in their own bubble, but they want like some connection to the country, which is also making it like more sustainable. If they got connections, they are more likely to stay, maybe invest, you know, like open their companies. All that is possible, but they have to find their way, right? So, for instance, in Madeira, they did a very good thing when they connected actually people coming to the village with local startup community.
So, we came to an end of this conversation. We said everything. What's next for you? Where are you going next?
I have that permit, the visa. So I'll be here until March when it expires, end of March. I will go visit family in Florida and all of April. And I'm planning, this is the farthest I've ever really planned out, but like most likely Georgia, Gruz, to be there.
That's also on my list.
Yeah. So I'm thinking basically May, June, July, summer-ish, basically between Batumi, Tbilisi, and Elbrus. Try and get to the top of that. And then honestly, I intend to come back. I'm like a fanboy of Croatia. I can't get enough. Yeah.
I already bought my ticket to Cabo Verde for January.
You said that.
One of the things they are doing now is they actually started to build a nomad village in Cabo Verde, in one of the islands, which is the same idea that happened in Madeira. So this is like very new thing still, but that's another community they are starting.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.